But first, it's time for the hot topic of the hour. President Trump officially suing JPMorgan Chase and CEO Jamie Dimon for $5 billion over claims that he and his family were debanked after the January 6th Capitol riot. So the lawsuit alleges the bank terminated several bank accounts linked to the president. Quote, and here's part of the filing, as a result of political and social motivations and JPMorgan's unsubstantiated woke beliefs that it needed to distance itself from President Trump and his conservative political views. So that's a direct quote from the lawsuit that I just read. JPMorgan has now responded. Here's what they say. While we regret President Trump has sued us, we believe the suit has no merit. We respect the president's right to sue us and our right to defend ourselves. That's what courts are for. JPMorgan does not close accounts for political or religious reasons. We do close accounts because they create legal or regulatory risk for the company. We regret having to do so, but often rules and regulatory expectations lead us to do so. We've been asking both this administration and prior administrations change the rules and regulations that put us in this position. And we support the administration's efforts to prevent the weaponization of the banking sector. So Maria asked Jamie Dimon himself about debanking. This was just last month. Watch this.
Did you send over the bank records of Devin Nunes or Trump supporters to the special counsel when he wanted that information?
People have to grow up here, okay, and stop making up things and stuff like that. So, and I can't talk about an individual account. We do not debank people with religious or political affiliations. We do debank them. They have religious and political affiliation. We debank people who are Democrats. We debank people who are Republicans. We've debanked different religious folks. Never was that for that reason. And that's number one. Number two is I don't like debanking people. We live under very strict rules and regulations and requirements. And to protect the country, and we have to report things to the government. We're required to report things to the government. We don't give information to the government just because they ask. We're subpoenaed. We are required by court to give it to the government. And I've been following subpoenas with this administration, the last administration, the administration before that, and the one before that.
Tiana, your reaction to this morning, breaking news.
Jamie Dimon and JPMorgan Chase have not denied that Trump and his business affiliates, family members, that they lost these accounts after early 2021. So everyone agrees on the timeline. They just maintain, oh, it must have been for regulatory risk, legal risk. Which makes me think President Trump is doing this all for discovery, because right now it's not necessarily a crime to debank someone for political affiliation, right? Like you under the terms of your contractual agreement with the bank. Most of these banks reserve the right to close an account for any reason. But the fact that Jamie Dimon so dug in, sort of giving a non-answer to Maria about were you compliant with these criminal proceedings?
But back up, discovery. That's interesting. What do you think they could be looking for here?
I think it would be exactly what Maria asked about. Was there any compliance between JPMorgan Chase and Jack Smith, any of these prosecutors that said they were going to try and get Trump? And now we know that these Republican senators had warrants out for their cell phone records. Okay. And it's not a far stretch to think that they would be trying to go after financials as well.
You're mentioning former special prosecutor Jack Smith, who, by the way, had a very lengthy amount of testimony on Capitol Hill yesterday over his prosecutions of President Trump. Okay, interesting take, Tiana. Greg, your reaction, obviously, as a Wall Street guy and investor guy, I'm assuming you don't like when the administration, any administration, goes after a bank. Your thoughts here?
100%. Yeah. I mean, look, you've got two very powerful men here, the president, the CEO of the biggest bank in the United States. I don't like to see this back and forth personally. And it is what it is. It's going to have to play out, I think, a little bit. But in the end, I think from an investor perspective, and I'm personally long a lot of, the big bank names, I think this is going to be noise in the end. $5 billion for JPMorgan is not really a big deal. And if you look at the relationship, I think historically,
I mean, $5 billion. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I see what you're saying, but it's $5 billion.
It's $5 billion, right? But if you look at the,
it's a lot of money to me. I don't know. What do I know, Greg?
If you look at the relationship between Jamie Dimon and the president over time, there's been a little tit for tat, and I think this will pass.
Yeah, no, and Jamie Dimon also was in Davos as well, as was President Trump, and again, very diplomatically, again, defended his bank and his position. And you know, Jamie Dimon is somebody that always seems to really try to be apolitical.
Yes.
Run his business, which he has done very well if you're a shareholder of JPMorgan. Do you think that maybe that it plays out in the courts, or do you think that there might be some kind of detente between JPMorgan and Jamie Dimon and President Trump?
I wouldn't be surprised if there was some sort of detente or low-level settlement just to avoid that discovery. But also, Jamie Dimon very clearly sees himself as sort of a bulwark of finance as a positive good, which I don't think is wrong, right? It's why he says if President Trump wants to cap interest rates, credit card interest rates at 10%, when right now the average interest rate is 22%, do it in Vermont and Massachusetts, where Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren have been begging for this for years. Don't do it nationwide, where 80% of credit card clients are going to lose access.
You make an interesting point, though, about the 10% credit card cap, because that's another thing that the president wants. Is this a means to an end? I'm asking you for this over here. I'm coming after you for this. But what I really want is this, because that 10% cap, none of the banks like it, Tiana.
No, and I'm not sure if it's greater strategy. I think it's President Trump just wants to bring those interest rates down. But the fact is, as we see, the 10-year doesn't respond to executive fiat, nor does it even necessarily respond to what the Fed does.
Well, you know, art of the deal. We shall see. But again, breaking news that we knew it was coming. It had been telegraphed by the president. The lawsuit has now been filed. We're going to stay on it this morning.